Welcome to the Jon and Heidi Show podcast.
Jon and Heidi.
Here's Jon and Heidi.
Today is a special day, Heidi. Do you know what today is?
What is today, Jon?
I thought you'd never ask, Heidi. It's Thursday, the 29th day of August, National Chop Suey Day, according to Hoyle Day, Individual Rights Day, More Herbs, Less Salt Day, National Lemon Juice Day, International Cabernet Sauvignon Day. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
That is one of the wines that Heidi likes. I'm not a big fan of wine, so... And I think that is everything. There might be other stuff. I do have that whole list in the show notes. And then I've got a Dear Jon letter. And it is a group. It says a team. So it was like, I don't know if it's like a baseball team or whatever kind of team. But a group of people who went to a restaurant. And they were trying to support the local restaurant. But then they were kind of getting the side eye from people there. And even the restaurant who had set aside a room for them kind of treated them like, we don't want you here. So... Just asking, what would you have done? And you can chime in with your advice at facebook.com/Jon and Heidi Show. And if you have a Dear Jon letter for next week, we have room. Send it at the same place, or you can do it at the bottom of the page at jonandheidishow.com.
Charlie has Parkinson's. Recently, Charlie started wearing a bracelet from Vitatech Healing.
I'm an avid golfer, and I was going to give it up this year. I just deteriorated that much. Now I'm back to golfing, enjoying it, having a good time. I just can't stress enough how good it is.
Click on radiosavings.com to hear more of Charlie's story and find out how Vitatech Healing is helping others with ADHD, fibromyalgia, autism, and more. Plus, find radio-only savings by clicking the link at radiosavings.com. That's radiosavings.com.
Now, surveys and studies and such brought to you by bettercreditcards.com. If, because of the realityist of today's housing market, the concept of becoming an empty nester seems like some kind of wild fantasy that you're never going to be able to enjoy, here's something to file away in the back of the brain. Even if they do move out someday, they might come back. And you'll probably like it. A new study found a surprising 85% of parents report being delighted to have their adult children back home with them. Talker Research surveyed 2,000 parents of children in their 20s who are currently living at home. While the results certainly tell of a generation that's struggling financially, parents seem to be overwhelmingly supportive of their kids coming home to roost. 27% of parents said that they weren't financially prepared for their child's extended stay. 2/3 said they're using the time together to teach money-related lessons, including budgeting, paying down debt, and investing. So... there you go. We had both of our kids stay with us for a little while. Once they moved out, they left and then came back. And now they're both back out on their own.
Yep.
So.
And I did love having them come back home.
I was like, oh, wow, you're cramping my style, kids. Surveys and studies and such brought to you by bettercreditcards.com.
If you want a better credit card, it can be easy and not so hard. Bettercreditcards.com. Earn more points and get more perks. Get what you're looking for in a card that works. Bettercreditcards.com. Give yourself a little credit. Bettercreditcards.com. Give yourself a little credit. Bettercreditcards.com.
That's bettercreditcards.com.
Did you know? Brought to you by GenesisGoldIRA.com. Heidi, did you know the Sundance Kid took his name from the town of Sundance, Wyoming?
I think I did know that, actually.
Harry Alonzo Longbaugh was his name, but he was more likely known by his nickname, Sundance Kid, and he took the moniker from the town Sundance, Wyoming. He was jailed there when he was just 15 for stealing a horse, and he went on to he was 15 years old. He joined the Wild Bunch and became known as the Sundance Kid.
Huh.
All right, we don't know everything, but now we know this.
Jon and Heidi.
Now, big screen, little screen, brought to you by radiosavings.com. Kevin Costner's passion project, the epic Western Horizon, an American Saga Chapter 1, has been a disaster at the box office, but it's still getting a premiere date on Max. It hit the streamers on August 23rd, so I think that was last week maybe. Former Yellowstone star wrote and directed and starred in the first installment of his new Western film series, which premiered in June. It only made $32 million on a $100 million budget. He spent $38 million of his own money on the film. So how's it a $32 million? Oh, I see. It only made $32 million on a $100 million. Yeah, there we go. And the brown felt fedora worn by Harrison Ford. Did I just?
Really?
Yeah, the Indiana Jones movie sold for $630,000.
Holy cow!
It was in the 1984 Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. It was expected to fetch $250,000, but it ended up going for over that. It was $630,000.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and Jamie Lee Curtis has revealed that Freakier Friday has almost finished filming. It's the sequel to the 2003 body-swapping comedy with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis. Thanks for listening to The John and Heidi Show.
Charlie has Parkinson's. He started wearing a bracelet from Vitatech Healing, and he's noticed a difference, even while sleeping.
Once I got in bed, I couldn't roll over, I couldn't move. I was just whatever position I was in, just a chore to get out of bed. And now everything is so much better.
Click on radiosavings.com to hear more of Charlie's story and find out how Vitatech Healing is helping others with ADHD, fibromyalgia, autism, and more. Plus, find radio-only savings by clicking the link at radiosavings.com. That's radiosavings.com.
Now your scoop of the day comes your way, courtesy of bettercreditcards.com. Mathematicians say that you have better odds of winning an Oscar than winning the lottery. So, yeah, because there's like one night a whole bunch of people win Oscars.
Wow.
There's hardly ever nights where a whole bunch of people win the lottery. And a study suggests you can get health benefits from exercising for just 6 seconds at a time. Now, here's something I can do. And let's move on to this over here. Scientists are developing a new generation of smart insulins that they say could transform the way people with type 1 diabetes manage their condition. The breakthrough treatment mimics the body's response to changing blood sugar levels in real time, reducing the need for frequent injections to maybe once a week. Recently, those behind the experimental glucose responsive insulins were awarded $2.7 million or US dollars, $3.5 million. It was 2.7 million pounds, so like $3.5 million to fast track their development as part of a type 1 diabetes grand challenge. Dr. Tim Heisey, a vice chair of the scientific advisory panel for the type 1 diabetes grand challenge, said that the development, if successful, could come as close to a cure for type 1 diabetes as any drug therapy ever could.
Wow.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, very cool.
And so basically what this does is it mimics what happens in people who don't have diabetes. You put this insulin in, and then when it needs to respond, it responds, just like a person's body typically does on their own. Yeah, that is. So it's not necessarily a cure, but it would be, a shot once a week that kind of does all the stuff for you internally. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. And again, I don't know that I would necessarily say I'm ready to just start testing stuff on me.
Oh, no.
But I'm glad that there are people who do that, because the people who do get the testing, they're the ones that help all the others. So I'm just a big old wuss. So I don't think I want to do that. Scoop of the day comes your way, courtesy of bettercreditcards.com.
Can your IRA or 401k stand up to the next financial crisis by allocating a percentage of your retirement into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover? You can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns. Safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Protect your retirement today with a simple phone call and receive your free gold and silver guide. Call 1-800-200-GOLD or visit genesisgoldira.com.
Time now for Dear John Letters.
Dear John.
All right. I don't know if we're going to even need all the time that we need usually to answer this. So I'm going to go through this, and then I'm going to talk about an experience that we had one time. But all right, here we go. Dear John, tonight a group of 20 of us went out to eat at a local restaurant after a game. We called ahead. When we got there, they had put us in a private room that they had set up specifically for us. The manager came out and told us that they set up wooden benches for the kids to sit on. They didn't want the kids to sit on their new white chairs because kids are more likely to spill, and they have white chairs. They said white chairs like 5 times or more. If you're so worried about somebody spilling on your white chairs, why in the world did you buy white chairs for a restaurant? One person in the party said, maybe we should just go someplace else. The youngest kid was 9, by the way, so it wasn't a bunch of toddlers. What would you have done if this would have been you? Signed, Team Manager. And like I said, I don't know, this is going to take a long time to answer that. I do appreciate it. And I also want to say thank you for a letter that's not quite as heavy as some of the stuff lately. We've had letters about divorce and, people dying and, all kinds of stuff. So thank you for a little more lighthearted. But Heidi, what would you have done? Would you have left or would you have stayed?
I would have left.
I wouldn't have left. I would have stayed there and I would have smeared stuff all over the... No, I would not have done that. I would have just said thank you. I understand what they're doing, and I get what you're saying.
If you don't want children in the restaurant, then you should make that a policy.
And here's the thing. I don't think that it's that they didn't want children there. It sounds to me like they just maybe got new white chairs because they said something about their new white chairs.
I have news for you. It doesn't matter who's sitting in them. Those chairs are not going to be white for long.
And that is an odd choice to get white chairs.
For a restaurant. That's a very odd choice.
Because they're not going to be white for a long time. But I bet they look really nice now.
I bet they do.
And if you've got wooden benches, why not just have the wooden benches there all the time? But I don't know that it was even necessarily the restaurant, because it might have just been the tone of this person who worked there that made them feel unwanted. But I can tell you this. If
I did have to stay, it certainly would have been reflected in my tip.
Yeah,
if I was treated poorly.
Again, I don't know that they were treated poorly. They kept mentioning the white chairs. And somebody felt unwanted because they're like, should we just go somewhere else? The youngest kid was 9. They weren't toddlers, like I said. And the question is, what would you have done if this had been you? And Heidi said that she would have left. I would have stayed. Again, they set up a room for you, so they gave you kind of your own space. And I understand where you probably felt like, wow, that was a bit odd. But I hope that you understand that might not have had anything to do with the owner. If this was just a person who works there, I remember reading a book called Give Them the Pickle. There was a guy, I went to a presentation where there was literally a dude speaking about this. He owned a restaurant, and for years, this gentleman would come in and have a meal, and when he would have this meal, he would ask for an extra pickle, and for years, he would get this extra pickle. And then all of a sudden, one day, he asked for an extra pickle. There's a new person working there. They gave him the extra pickle, but they charged him like 75 cents or whatever it was, some amount. And he wrote a letter, sadly didn't put his name on it, so the owner of the company has no idea who this is or how they could reach them. But he said, I would eat in your restaurant a couple of times a week, and I've done this for years, and I've always liked it, and I got, this thing with this pickle, and all of a sudden I'm not coming here anymore. And it made such an impact on the owner of the business that he literally wrote a book about it called Give Them the Pickle.
Right.
You could be very much punishing the owner of this company, and it could just be somebody who works there that knows that, hey, the owner just bought these chairs, and we don't want to ruin these chairs. They think they're doing their job. So again, at the end of the day, I don't know that it is a reflection of the business. There's somebody there that might be just, micromanaging a situation. You have no idea if that's... So again, I wouldn't punish the business for that. Heidi clearly would. So
you don't know if that was the owner's intention or not.
You never
You're
know.
Making up your own little...
I'm thinking in my brain.
Blue sky scenario here.
I will say this. I do remember, this is over 20 years ago, and it's in Heidi's hometown in Iowa. I remember when I worked there was a particular restaurant that was advertising Tuesday night is kids' night. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. So
I was like, hey, we should go. We should go do this. So we had, at the time, our son was not even in kindergarten. So he was even younger than that. Our daughter wasn't even born yet. So Troy was like 3. And we had friends that had like a 2- and 3-year-old. And we decided, let's go to kids' night. We'll go do it. And we got there, and we were completely ignored. Every table around us was being served, and they would eat, and they would leave, and then another people would sit. And they were completely ignoring us, which is a different scenario than this. And at that point, it was like, why are you saying Tuesday's kids' night if you don't want kids here?
Right.
So different scenario, but there you go. You can chime in with your advice for Team Manager at facebook.com/Jon and Heidi Show.
Charlie has Parkinson's. Recently, Charlie started wearing a bracelet from Vitatech Healing.
I'm an avid golfer, and I was going to give it up this year. I just deteriorated that much. Now I'm back to golfing, enjoying it, having a good time. I just can't stress enough how good it is.
Click on radiosavings.com to hear more of Charlie's story and find out how Vitatech Healing is helping others with ADHD, fibromyalgia, autism, and more. Plus, find radio-only savings by clicking the link at radiosavings.com. That's radiosavings.com.
Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
There are 92 known cases of nuclear bombs lost at sea. We talked about that, didn't we?
Yes.
It's like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
Oprah Winfrey's legal name is listed as Orpah, O-R-P-A-H, a biblical figure. It was often mispronounced as Oprah, and that just eventually stuck. But her name officially is O-R-P-A-H, Orpah. I wonder if your dad could say that. He cannot say Oprah for some reason.
Oprah.
Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
Willie Nelson wrote the song On the Road Again on the back of an airplane sickness bag. An air sickness bag?
Really?
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
If sound could travel through space, the noise of the sun on Earth would be the equivalent of a train horn from about a meter away.
Oh, wow.
That's how loud it would be. So that's how loud the sun is. And our final fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
There are more insects in 1 square mile of rural land than there are human beings in the entire world. Yeah.
I think I knew that.
Yeah, we talked about that too. That I don't know who counted, but we'll just take their word for it. Several fun facts. Now you know. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show.
If you want a better credit card, it can be easy and not so hard. BetterCreditCards.com. Earn more points and get more perks. Get what you're looking for in a card that works. BetterCreditCards.com. Give yourself a little credit. BetterCreditCards.com. Give yourself a little credit. BetterCreditCards.com.
That's bettercreditcards.com.
Time now for the Mint Mobile question of the day. It comes your way courtesy of mintervention.com. Question, Heidi. 16% of women say they've demanded that their man do this. It's a beauty regimen. What is it? They've demanded that their man do this.
I honestly don't know.
Pluck their eyebrows.
Oh.
Yeah, Heidi's never demanded that I do that, but she did buy me a nose hair trimmer and said,
Ear
"Hey,
hair trimmer.
you should take care of your ears." I'm like, "What? I can't hear you. I got all this hair in the way." Made a big difference. All right, Mint Mobile question of the day comes your way courtesy of mintervention.com.
Charlie has Parkinson's. He started wearing a bracelet from Vitatech Healing, and he's noticed a difference even while sleeping.
Once I got in bed, I couldn't roll over. I couldn't move. I was just whatever position I was in, just a chore to get out of bed. And now everything is so much better.
Click on radiosavings.com to hear more of Charlie's story and find out how Vitatech Healing is helping others with ADHD, fibromyalgia, autism, and more. Plus, find radio-only savings by clicking the link at radiosavings.com. That's radiosavings.com.
Now, some weird news brought to you by weirdgiftoftheday.com. Police in St. Petersburg, Florida were called to report of a disturbance at a residence. When they got there, they found a messy scene. The walls and the floor had red spatter all over them, as did the victim's hair. It was not blood. It was spaghetti sauce.
Oh.
Yeah, the victim, the sauce-hurling assailant's mother, told police that her son had become upset and had thrown his Sunday supper bowl of spaghetti at her.
Oh, my gosh.
He's 41, by the way.
Yeah, that would not end well in my household.
Time to go, Anthony Fiaccio. I don't know if I said his last name right. It doesn't matter. He doesn't deserve it to be right. Anthony, the naughty boy, fled the scene when police got there, attempted to hide behind a bush in his backyard. He was quickly taken into custody and charged with domestic battery and resisting an officer. By the way, it's not the first run-in with the law. He had a previous conviction for throwing a deadly missile into a building.
What?
The missile in question was an empty Heineken that he had hurled after being asked to leave a party. Judge has now banned him from contact with his mother. Yeah, he should go somewhere and think about what it's like to just be a nice person, because it doesn't sound like he's doing good with that.
Yikes.
Weird news brought to you by weirdgiftoftheday.com.
John and Heidi.
Time now for the list brought to you by bettercreditcards.com. We started this the other day. We're going to finish it up today. These are 90s pop culture facts that you probably didn't know. Like Timon and Pumbaa were originally the ones who were supposed to sing Can You Feel the Love Tonight in Lion King. Then Elton John sang it, and they're like, let's just go with that one. George Lucas returned to directing for the Phantom Menace. It was his first time in that role since the original Star Wars. I didn't know that. And there's a lot more detail on that. And thanks to its pioneering use of auto-tune, Cher's hit Believe changed music forever. But at the time, she wasn't even interested in recording it. Her company president eventually made her do it, convinced her, saying that, hey, it's going to be your last album. And it's full of ballads. That would be a disappointment. So they continued to pester her until she did it, and it was her biggest hit. And our final thing on the list here, Steve Jobs did not want to call it the iMac. He wanted to call it Mac-Man. Kind of like Pac-Man. I think that would have been kind of cool. The list brought to you by bettercreditcards.com.
Can your IRA or 401k stand up to the next financial crisis? By allocating a percentage of your retirement into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns. Safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Protect your retirement today with a simple phone call and receive your free gold and silver guide. Call 1-800-200-GOLD or visit genesisgoldira.com.
Time now for the quote of the day. It comes your way courtesy of radiosavings.com. Our quote today is from Whitney Brown, who says, I don't eat meat because I love animals. I eat vegetables because I hate plants.
Okay.
All right. Well,
but the animals that you love like the plants, and you're eating all their food.
yeah. Way to go there, Whitney. I love it. All right. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show. Your quote of the day comes your way courtesy of RadioSavings.com.
John and Heidi.
This portion of the John and Heidi Show is brought to you by the John and Heidi Show. That sounds kind of funny, but it's true. Go to your local radio station and ask them to start carrying the John and Heidi Show. Here's the best part. They can carry the show for free. They play a couple commercials, but it doesn't cost them anything every month. So if you know a radio station that could use a little bit of help, send them our way. Send them to johnandheidishow.com. Again, johnandheidishow.com. We would love to do a radio program in your community. Then you could listen to the podcast and listen to us on the radio.
John and Heidi.
We always like to wrap things up around here with good news, and I think this is good news. It comes your way courtesy of GenesisGoldIRA.com. And I think this is really neat. I love these types of stories here, and especially when it's just a stranger that it's not like, somebody that you know, but a hidden blessing. How a stranger's kindness brought a mother to tears. This comes from Grand Haven, Michigan. A mother in Michigan experienced a random act of kindness that brought tears to her eyes. Her daughter Isabel was born 6 weeks premature, weighing only 3 pounds. As a result, she needs a special type of formula that's tailored specifically for premature babies, and it is essential, but it is also
Very expensive, right?
He says the cost of formula is so much, especially this one, since it's technically for premature babies. It's like $80 for 3 cans. Whoa. With the rising cost, providing for her little miracle is becoming a challenge. During a recent shopping trip, she discovered a $20 bill that was tucked under the lid of one of the cans of formula. A small gesture left her overwhelmed with emotion.
Oh.
She said, "We need to tell the person, whoever did this, that we really appreciate that." Her voice was filled with gratitude. Said, I kind of had like a little postpartum moment, and I cried. This is just amazing. It made my day. In a world where the smallest gesture can make a big difference, this act of kindness served as a reminder that humanity's goodness can shine through in unexpected ways, touching lives when it's needed the most.
Wow.
So these cans...
I love that.
Yeah, these cans are... It's almost like a coffee can, but a little smaller. And it's got a plastic lid that you can peel off, and then there's a sealed lid underneath.
There's a sealed lid underneath it.
So between that sealed lid and the plastic lid, somebody just folded up a $20 bill, stuck it in there, and then put the lid back on.
I love that.
So, yeah, what a way to bless somebody without them knowing who you were, without them, there's no press release involved.
There's no social media.
Yeah, but, in this case, she went on to just say,
she didn't know who it was.
You.
So it's not like somebody did this to get famous. And those are my favorite
Exactly.
ones.
And she basically just wanted to say, hey, whoever did this, that was cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
You were appreciated. So love it, love it, love it. I've got a link to the story. It's in the show notes for today at johnandheidishow.com. Time to say goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to the John and Heidi Show.